First, they came for my grandfather and all his family, to expel them from their home and their country, never to return. But I was not yet born, so I had no voice. Then they came to kill my grandfather and his family, but my mother had escaped, so I was born free. My mother was consumed by grief, but I was safe. Then the world was ashamed that it failed to protect Europe's Jews from the Holocaust, so it gave them a country called Israel, with an army to be strong. So I did not need to speak out. Then Israel expelled the Palestinians from their homes and their country and denied their return. But my mother assured me the Palestinians abandoned their lands while Israel made the desert bloom. So I felt proud and did not need to speak out. Then Israel grew stronger, took more lands and expelled more Palestinians, explaining that this would make Jews safer. So, though I was worried, I still did not speak out. Then Israel persuaded the world that it was anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. So, as I was Jewish, I felt free to criticize. But then I too was silenced. Now, for all its strength, Israel failed to prevent the slaughter of 1,200 Israelis, and Hamas violence was countered by the destruction of Gaza and the death of 30,000 Palestinians. So I am breaking my silence. Why now, in this most divisive of times? Here's why. A listener wrote this to me after hearing my podcast about the Holocaust and the Palestinian Nakba, Keys, a troubled inheritance.
I found myself, probably like many people, in a position where I have no idea what to think about what's happening in Gaza. It's horrific. But opposition to it is tangled up with anti-Semitism in the most awful way, and I want nothing to do with that. So I thought I should listen to what Jewish people have to say, because it's at least reasonably certain that they're not anti-Semitic.
Fear of being accused of anti-Semitism has chilled discussion and understanding of what is happening, and what has been happening for the past 75 years in Israel and Palestine. So now, join me, Mike Joseph, and Sami Abu Salim, a Palestinian from Gaza, exploring some of that past and searching for hope for a different future. September 1935. Nazi Germany moved towards genocide, enacting the Nuremberg Laws. The laws divided Germany racially, socially, and legally. There would be first-class citizens, and there would be Jews. A fortnight later, Leipzig police announced that photos of Jewish men and Aryan women arrested for race pollution would be displayed at police HQ. The next day, in Leipzig, my mother's father applied to emigrate to Palestine. My grandfather saw no future for his young family in Leipzig or Germany. But would they be safer in the British Mandate territory of Palestine? The news from his brother, who was already in Palestine, was alarming. So he wrote to his brother. Wie ist euer Verhältnis zu den Araben? How are your relations with the Arabs? Trachtet mit den Araben in Frieden und Freundschaft auszukommen. Strive to live with the Arabs in peace and in friendship. Es ist bestimmt eine sehr wichtige Sache. It is sure to be a very important matter. My grandfather lived, socialized, and coexisted with Germans and Poles, with Czechs and Ukrainians, and he spoke all their languages. And he wanted just the same for Palestinians and Jews. He even started learning Arabic, and yet he hesitated. A few months later, he wrote again to his brother in Palestine. I still don't know what I'm going to do in future. It's hard to decide finishing life and business here. I'd like to wait until the children are grown up and have finished their studies. Nobody actually knows what is the right thing to do. In the end, he decided to stay and see it out under the Nazis. And in 1941, he and all his family, other than my mother and my aunt, were killed by the Nazi SS. My father's brother, my uncle, escaped Nazi Germany to Palestine, and there, in 1948, as a young Jewish militiaman, he was involved in the violent ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian village of Bureir, 10 miles from Gaza City. How do I know that? My uncle inscribed his long military history on this Israeli flag, which he had sewn together 5 years earlier. Bureir, all that remains of the once thriving village of around 3,000 Palestinians. A few years ago, I located the village ruins. It's just 4 miles from the Gaza border fence, in a forgotten corner of the Israeli kibbutz of Bror Chayil. Forgotten, that is, by the kibbutzniks, but not by Sami Abu Salem or his mother, Fatima. Sami is a journalist in Gaza. Fatima was a 10-year-old girl when she was driven out of Bureir in 1948. On September the 27th, 2023, just 10 days before Hamas invaded Israel, I sat down with Sami to talk over a Zoom link. Sami was in his home in Jabalia, Gaza. I was in Bath, England. He is a Palestinian journalist, and I am a Welsh journalist. Sami's mother is a survivor of the Nakba of 1948. My mother was a survivor of the Holocaust from 1939 to 45. We had a great deal to talk about. Sami, I'm delighted at long last to be sitting face to face with you and ready to talk through a lot of subjects. You might remember that when you and I first started communicating, you were really urging me to come to Gaza. How can I talk about Gaza if I don't come and meet you in Gaza? Could you have come out of Gaza to meet me? What would the problems be for you to do that?
I would like to meet Mike Joseph in Jerusalem or in Ashkelon or in Bureir, but I cannot go just because the Israeli occupation prevents my movement. It is one of my human rights to move, to travel. Why I couldn't? I could not simply because the Israelis prevented me from traveling just because I am Palestinian and because I am from Gaza. We are in the days of the Jewish feasts. We congratulate all Jews in the world for their feasts. But unfortunately, in Israel now, they are celebrating and we are under blockade. They close the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and they celebrate and enjoy their time while we are under closure. I suffer from hyperthyroidism. I applied for a permission for the Israelis to go to Hebron, a Palestinian city, to have a treatment, iodine dose for the thyroid gland, but the Israelis prevented me. I applied several times, prevented me. Why? Thousands of patients like this. They need treatment, but the Israelis do not allow.
there's another practical difficulty which we're facing right now as we speak, which is that you've warned us that any moment now you might be losing electricity in Gaza. I mean, how does that work? How can you simply be sat there in the middle of the day and all of a sudden the power goes off?
That's correct. Actually, when the Israelis destroyed the sole power plant in Gaza, we lived for lasting months in darkness, in blackout, and the PA pays for it, but we don't have 24 hours electricity. Every single thing is restricted by the Israelis. That's why anytime now, while I'm talking to Go, I think we will have blackout. The electricity will go off,
Tell us a bit about your family life, because I just think I spotted your daughter Layla in the background briefly. So you're a family man as well as a journalist. How many children do you have?
I have 4, double males and double females.
Are they all at school? Are they all young?
I have 17, 15, 13, and 5.
Okay. You're a busy man, a busy father. And your mother also lives with you, yes?
I asked her to come here, by the way, and she says hi to you. Hi for you, or for you, especially for you and the rest. I told her, please come, and people from London are going to talk to you. She said, no. 70 years ago, all people are talking. It is fruitless. There is no country in the world that try to change, to put real pressure on Israel. As long as there is no real pressure on Israel, media will do nothing. That's what she said. But when I tell her, Mom, excuse me, I would like to record to tell the West what is running here and what happened with you. She said, no, they are liars. Don't listen to them. Don't believe them. They are doing nothing. So she's hopeless, because according to her, there is no real results. Because why no real results? Because no real side, real people, real country puts any pressure on Israel.
I know that you've already spoken with her in detail and recorded her memories of 1948, how she was a 10-year-old girl in her village, Borer, and how everything came to a terrible end in 1948. The way I understand it, Borer was quite a large village. There was water, there was a mill. It was a thriving village until the beginning of 1948.
She was living luxurious life, according to her. They have lots of agricultural land, almond, wheat, fruit, and animals. And according to her, she eats lots of meat at that time because they have animals, they have sheep and cows. And they were so happy anyway at that time. And her brother was the big boss of the Mukhtar of the neighborhood. Suddenly she was kicked out, carrying nothing. From luxurious life to Ashkelon, there is bombing. Then she moved to Gaza.
And as I understand it, and I'm sure you will correct me if I'm wrong, but what made Borer very interesting to the Jewish forces at the very end of the British Mandate was that it sat on the crossroads. So one road went from the port of Gaza to Borer and then onwards to Hebron and Beersheba. And then another road came down from the north, from Jerusalem, through Borer, and continued into the desert, into the Negev. And that was very interesting to the Jewish forces because they wanted to expand Jewish settlements to the south, into the Negev. And the road was vital to them. And Borer sat on the road. What happened? How did the violence start?
According to my understanding from my mother, she told me that there was a Palestinian resistance in Borer. She said because it is near the main road, so the freedom fighters used to come and gather in Borer to attack military, maybe British or Israelis. At that time, they called the Zionist Haganah. And as long as his brother Muhammad was the Dean, the fighters used to come to have ammunition from him. Ammunition or primitive rifles, British or Israeli military vehicles moved from there, and the Palestinian fighters used to ambush them. But to be honest, also, it was non-balanced fights, because the British or the Israelis were very advanced with tanks, with the vehicles, while the Palestinians have gunshot, big rifle, but it shoots just one shot, So, and they are not well trained. These details make me understand why Borer is distinguished because of resistance there. This is the main point, resistance, and its strategic location.
Why was it Borer that was singled out for a massacre? Because the neighboring villages, I think Simsim and Huj and Hulikat, there was no massacre there.
To confirm that, actually, my mother is from Borer, but my father is from Beit Tima. And when the people of Borer, that big village, escaped to Beit Tima, so the villagers from Beit Tima said, oh my God, even if the villagers of Borer escaped, what can we do? Let's escape with them. And they escaped together to Ahlagat, I think, then to Ashkelon. So it means everything is finished. Everything is collapsed. That's why they escaped without fighting or without hesitating. I asked her, what is the most thing you suffered in your life or in this accident? She said, starving. I was hungry. Starving and fear. This is the most thing that my mother suffered from. Starving and fear. Besides other things like cold and hot and things like this.
Some of the people from Borer tried to go back to find their possessions, to find their animals, to make a harvest. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are lots of stories like this, especially my uncle Diab. When people escaped, they left everything, their property, their money, their jewelry, their animals, everything. And escaped, and they were thinking that they are coming back again, maybe tomorrow, after 2 days, whatever. And even while they are running, screaming, "Oh, come on, let's bring this cow! No, leave it. We will come back again." But nobody went back till now. That's why Diab went to Borer to bring the money of his son, who used to work as a guard with the British military. He found the barrel is poured upside down, and there is no money in. So the Jewish people robbed the money. They took everything there. Anyway, Diab, when he went there, he tried to take the money. He didn't find the money, the cash, but he would like to have some food. So he led a camel, and he put on the camel some furniture and wheat, some food, and mattresses and shrouds. Before leaving, he make a tour in the village to see what is happening, because he didn't see Israeli soldiers. He didn't see Jewish military there. They just kicked out the villagers and they withdrew. And while he is moving there, he said, I saw some people who were killed inside their houses or out or in the street, and there are some names. My mother gave me the names. It's a strange thing. 2 days ago, there was a condolence in our neighborhood here in Jabalia, 2 days ago. And I met one of Borer, old people, his name is Muhammad Ahmed Jadallah. I told him, do you remember what happened? He said, yeah, I remember. They killed my father and my two brothers. And he said, I saw they killed Al-Utul family, Jadallah family, Al-Alul family, and he counted some people to his family, and he told them, don't tell anybody. I don't want to be a carrier of bad news for people. And people are weeping and crying. What have you seen? What have you seen? And he whispered to his family, they killed Jadallah family and an auto family. That's why I asked the man 2 days ago, you remember what happened in prayer? I'm doing a project with some people in UK about that. He remembers it. But he escaped while he was 7 years. I asked him, have you seen it with your own eyes? He said, no, but I escaped. Then I hear that they killed them. So we are talking with a live history. Yeah. I think you, Mike, you are making history, making history from eyewitnesses, not from some papers or forgered or fake news.
All this happened under British administration with the British Army still in Palestine. And what I want to know is this: what role did the British take in these events? Was there any attempt to prevent the massacres? Was there any attempt to protect Palestinian villages? What do you know about this?
Lots of Jews were victims in Europe during the Second World War. They came and joined the Jewish troops, and they were oppressed. Oppressed. Now they are oppressors. Anyway, among those people, the Jewish military, I mean, there were some Jewish people who are already were officers or soldiers in the Second World War. I mean, they were well trained.
They were in the British Army in the second.
That's what I mean. They are fighting groups of Palestinian fighters with very primitive, stupid rifles. If there is a battle here or here, if the Jews win, the British stay silent. But if the Palestinians win, the British troop intervene and they kick the Palestinian.
Sami, I want to ask how Fatima lived when she finally came to Gaza. She was still a young girl. She had seen a lot. She had suffered a lot. But now the life that she had in Borea was finished, and she had to start a new life in Gaza. How was that? How did she cope?
Actually, when she were kicked out from Borea, she was about 12 years. And she came to Gaza, to Deir el-Balah. She told me about bombing in the market of Deir el-Balah, and lots of people escaped. During these years, she said, we lived in poverty, and they stayed with a man who is their friend because he's a big merchant. And he used to come to Borea. That's why they took his house as a shelter, and he helped them, offered them some food and a place to sleep. She said that we were living like beggars. In the beginning, they were living very luxurious life, and now like beggars. And she had brothers at that time, and they should work to eat, but there is no work at that time.
Gaza is one of the world's most ancient cities and Palestine's largest. It's a Mediterranean seaport, gateway to Jerusalem and Arabia. And it's a Palestinian city just as much as Hebron, Nablus and Ramallah. But since 1948, its history has been quite distinct, becoming in effect a Palestinian ghetto created by Israel. Because in 1948, Jewish forces under the British Mandate and then the army of the new Israeli state forced about 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, from their lands, and over the border of the new state into Jordan, into Syria, and into Lebanon. But Egypt refused to admit Palestinians beyond Gaza and into Egypt. Palestine's oldest and largest city became a huge refugee camp, where refugees outnumbered Gaza's own residents. The incomers lost their lands, the basis of their traditional subsistence. And Gaza City lost its hinterland, the basis of its traditional wealth. Gaza became an overcrowded, impoverished enclave some 25 miles long, maybe 5 or 6 miles wide, progressively sealed off by an Israeli fence and a shorter Egyptian border fence. A camp for over 2 million people, controlled by Egypt until 1967 and by Israel since then. And for decades, a camp blockaded by land, by sea and by air. When war comes to Gaza, which it has done 6 times, there is simply no escape. The refugees, their children and their grandchildren are displaced again, but with nowhere to go. All they can do is stay and await their fate.
Sami continues, recalling his mother's life in 1956, during Israel's first war on Gaza.
Then she got married from my father, who worked as a policeman with the Egyptian men, with the Egyptian administration of Gaza. While she living there, by the way, there was the Canal War, the Suez War. UK, France, and Israel attacked Egypt. Also at that time, the Gaza Strip suffered starvation, and she was starving also. And my father disappeared. She was in panic.
At the Portsmouth Naval Base, Britain prepares for the worst in the Suez Crisis.
And she told me in the Suez War how the Israelis make massacres in Khan Yunis. They collected men from the houses and put them on a wall and rushed them and shot them. She was living in the center of Khan Yunis city. And the massacre was in Khan Yunis city.
Why is Sami so vehement about a massacre which you've probably never heard of? When Britain, France and Israel conspired in 1956 to invade Egypt, Israel came into occupation of Gaza for the first time. Most Egyptian forces in Gaza surrendered quickly, but the defenders of the Khan Yunis garrison held out. So Israel shelled Khan Yunis town, took civilian lives, occupied the town, and then they ordered all adult males to muster. Israeli troops went from house to house ordering out the women and children, and then shot the men who remained inside. How many were massacred? Israeli historian Benny Morris records about 500 citizens across Gaza. The Khan Yunis massacre has never been denied by Israel's leaders. Sami's mother in Khan Yunis was a witness to the massacre. She was 18. Perhaps this helps to explain why she refuses to speak with me today, and why she believes no one will challenge and end the violence and dislocation that she suffered in Burea when she was 10, witnessed in Khan Yunis when she was 18, and endured in every subsequent war, including the most lethal of all the Gaza wars, the one that exploded 10 days after I interviewed Sami.
But unlike today, in 1956, the US soon forced Israel to leave all of Egypt and Gaza. Still, 11 years later, Israel returned to Gaza, and this time for good. The Six-Day War in 1967 brought Israel conquests of Arab lands beyond its wildest ambitions: Egypt's Sinai, Syria's Golan, Jordan's West Bank, and Gaza.
So in 1967 also, people were scared when Israel occupied Gaza. They said, now the Israelis will make massacres like 1956 and like 1948. So let's escape. And lots of people were escaped to Egypt. Till now, they cannot come back. Till now. I mean that all these years she is living in bombing. And after that, in 1987, there was the first intifada. During this first intifada, her son, my brother, was killed by the Israelis after he was arrested. Despite he was not a leader, he was spraying some words on a wall calling for a strike. That's it. They caught him and killed him on the spot. I mean, and I have been shot several times, and my brother was, the two brothers were also arrested. This is her life, under pressure, under pressure, under pressure, starving, cold, fear, instability. Nowadays, she's stable, and I ask her, what is the most thing you lost in your life? She said, my life. I didn't live. That's what she says. That's what she said. After the Suez War and after the Israeli occupation of Gaza in 1967, there was poverty and no work, and Israel closed the borders. Fear, poverty, cold, and starvation. This is her life.
I found Sami because I was searching for someone, anyone, whose family was expelled from Borer, the Palestinian village destroyed by my uncle's battalion in 1948. It helped greatly that we were both journalists. We started our explorations with common ground. We both valued witness and testimony as a way to overcome ignorance. Now, listening to Sami talk of his mother's lifetime of loss, dislocation and grief, it all felt so familiar. This was my own mother's story. A fortunate childhood in a well-to-do family, shattered in an instant, followed by a life of fear, poverty and disillusion. They both lost the life they might have had. I know that both mothers, Lily and Fatima, would probably recoil at being linked like this. But to me, the parallel is irresistible.
Sami, when were you born? What year were you born?
Me, 1970.
The story that you're telling me now, how old were you when you first understood that that was your inheritance?
We were living in a small house surrounded with orchard of citrus, orange, lemon, and things like this, and palm trees. And I used to go there to collect some and work with the farmers. I used to work with the farmers, well, not work, just to help them a little bit. And I come to my mother, okay, well, you see, my mother, they have a big orchard. Why don't we have like the same? And she told me, we have bigger than this. Where? In Borer. Where is Borer? And things like this. Well, I am about 10 years. Where is our orchard? Okay, it is in Borer, and it is better than this one in Khan Yunis. It is bullshit, you know. But in Borer, it is bigger and more beautiful and lots of fruits and vegetables. Oh, I tell her, okay, why we are not going there? He said, we cannot because the Israeli stock, blah, blah, blah. One of my brothers was arrested. And we go to visit him. And they just stop, move, okay, go back. I asked, who are them? Why? Where is our orchard? Where is our house? Where are our cows? And these details, you know, I have began to realize what is Nakba.
Sami, we come to a story which you first told me maybe 3 months, 4 months ago. And when you told me, I was absolutely amazed. There was a time when you were a teenager when it was possible for you to go and work in Israel as an agricultural worker. And the place where you went, can you tell us about that? Because I couldn't believe my ears when you told me where you went to work.
Actually, our neighbor at that time was like a contractor. He collect teenagers and go to Israel for harvesting oranges, melon, onion, and things like this, you know. And we used to move to work in different villages, you know. I worked in my village, I mean Bittima, but when they said we go to Brer, I said, yeah, I want to go to Brer. And we went to Brer, while Brer is in my mind. the map of Berer is my mind. I mean, the map which I imagine, just imagination from my mother. While we are driving, I remember they said, yeah, this is Berer. And but at that time, there was a label. It is written Berer Hai in Hebrew. And I was imagining that where is the house of my uncles and my mother and my grandmother, my grandfather. I felt that this village is mine. Just a feeling. I was very happy and very sad at the same time. I'm happy to see my land and very sad because it does not belong to me. And I remember that my mother told me that she planted a tree, eucalyptus, I think, eucalyptus. And I was looking at this tree, eucalyptus. Where is it? Where is it? Because when I see it, I realize the house of my mother. I saw one. I was very happy. Yeah, this is the house of my mother. Suddenly, I saw several eucalyptus trees. So, oh my God, which one? You know. Oh, which one? Where is the house of my mother? So I was working hard there because I was working with my heart, collecting onion at that time. Onion, it is not one day, it's several days. Sometimes onion, sometimes melon, sometimes apricot. I know that I'm working for the sake of the Israelis, you know, but I feel that this is my tree. I have to work with it carefully to keep the tree good, you know, and collect the good fruit. I was proud that, you see, good onion, it is our land. Good apricot, you see the apricot from Berer, it is fantastic, as it is mine. I was proud of it, despite it is not mine, and despite we give it to the Israelis and they sell it in Europe, say product of Israel. I know that, but I felt a link between me and this land. Each culture has legends, and she told me a story about the cave of the hyena. And she told the story about the hyena. I was looking at the hyena. There is a hyena there, despite it is very dangerous animal, you know. But I wish I see it, because if I see it, yeah, it is where my mother was here. And even when I moved there, did my mother walk here or not? Did she come here? I was looking for the water well, but I have seen nothing. I didn't see houses. The mosque of the village, you know, or the main road, I didn't realize. Where is the tree? Where is Al-Atul family were killed? Where the freedom fighters? Where are the main road? I didn't see anything, but I felt that there is a relation between me and this land. I love this village because it is mine. I feel that there is a special smell for this land. It has no special smell, of course, like any other, but that was my feeling, that I'm working in my land. And one day I hope we will go back here. And I have a piece of land here, belongs to me. And it is expected that I'm coming to come here and to build my house here under the eucalyptus tree. These feelings, you know, in just 1 second, evaporate when I see Israeli boss coming. Okay, go stop here and come here, finish Avodah, things like this. All these feelings, all these beautiful feelings, all these romantic moments has been destroyed when I hear a Hebrew word from the Israeli boss.
Sami, that's a very powerful memory. Is there a connection, perhaps, between that experience that you've just described and your decision to become a journalist?
Actually, I think, yeah, it has. Why? Because I have seen lots of things with my own eyes. I didn't hear these things from people, or I didn't read these things in books or things like this. People were killed. Even the first Intifada, I was an eyewitness on the first day in 1987. Even the first martyr was my friend. And moments before his killing, he was with me. And we were chatting together, and he's going to have a breakfast, blah, blah, blah. He was 17 and I was 18. What I used to see with my own eyes and what I used to see, to read in news or on TV or newspapers, there was a big difference. Big difference between what I do see and what I do hear or read. And I feel that this is one of the problems, especially the stories my mother used to tell me, horrible stories from my mother and horrible stories from other people, other old men I used to hear from different villages, even from Jaffa, from Ashkelon, from Hamama, whatever. I hear lots of stories, but these stories are not documented. We do not see these things in the news. And what I see on the ground in my daily life, I do not see it on the news. I claim that I will be a good journalist and write about what I see. But at that time, I do not have enough awareness how media is working. At that time, I didn't have an idea that there are bosses and policies behind the journalist himself. I did not realize that this is the real newsmakers are the lobbies behind the journalists. My brother was killed also, and nobody talks about it here. Not killed, he was extrajudicially executed in the street. But the news said there is a Palestinian guy was killed. That's it. They didn't say the Israeli undercover unit chased him and caught him alive. Then they shoot him. Nobody talked about him. Why? He was not a fighter. He was not. He carries no rifle. Just a spray, color spray, writing on the wall that calling for a strike. That's it. Execute him. These secrets should be told to the world.
So I want to share a story with you now, Sami. A few weeks ago, a man called Natan shared his story. Natan remembers, maybe even your own friends, maybe yourself, coming to work from Gaza, coming to work on the land in Brohail. And he also remembers the electrician, the chief electrician at the kibbutz at Brohail, who was also from Gaza. And he tells this story that Natan himself was in the Israeli army and he was at the checkpoint. I think it's Erez checkpoint between Gaza. Yeah.
Between Gaza and Israel, yes, Erez.
Yeah, exactly. And he was on duty at this checkpoint one night. It was 3:00 in the morning. And he was making the security checks for people coming out of Gaza to go and work in Israel. And who came to the checkpoint? The electrician came. And what he says, this is exactly what he said. I had to give him the security check. I had to take his ID card. And I felt very ashamed to do this. But he told me not to worry and just do my job. And afterwards, Natan says, he felt so ashamed, he felt so bad that for 2 hours he couldn't talk. Because this man, the electrician, was a friend of his when he came to work on the kibbutz. And yet there he was, having to take the ID card at the checkpoint. Now, this story says something to me about how there are real friendships and there are real relationships that were possible between people from Gaza and the Israelis who took the lands of the people who then ended in Gaza. It's very interesting when we find someone who can speak like this. You have to know that Natan had a daughter who was killed by a mortar from Gaza in 2005. And even so, he feels very bad about the situation. He says, I don't know how to change the situation. I don't know how to give the land back, but I would rather we gave the land back than have rockets fall on us all the time. So he sees the problem, he understands the problem, he doesn't know the solution. I was very surprised to hear someone who lost his daughter to a rocket from Gaza talk with so much understanding. Does that surprise you?
As a Palestinian, when I speak how much the Israelis are arrogant, how they are killers and blah, 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 I'm talking about a system, about a regime. I'm not talking about individuals, okay? It is not fair to dehumanize the Israelis. It is not fair. I know there are lots of Israelis, they are very good people, they're very kind people. There are, yeah, of course. The same story I will tell you. There was a Palestinian prisoner inside an Israeli prison. Inside an Israeli prison with an Israeli jailer. And there was a human relation between this jailer and the prisoner in 1991. And also his name Sami, by the way. And when Saddam Hussein shoot rockets at Israel, so the prisoners was worried for the life of the jailers. Something crazy, you know. And they told him, how you are, his comrades inside the cell, you are a Palestinian in a prison, how you are, why you are worried about his life? He said, I deal with him as a human. He's a good guy. I hope he is safe. I hope he is good. And but when I go back, and if we are in fighting, I will fight him as a occupier. So the issue is very complicated. And also in 1990, when rockets were shot by Iraq at Israel, lots of Israeli families escaped to the West Bank and lived in Palestinian.
Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. I never heard this story.
Yeah, no, you will never hear about it. You'll never hear about it because it reflects that the Palestinians are good. Some Israelis moved from Tel Aviv or wherever, and they moved to Ramallah and stay with Palestinians.
Crazy.
As humans, why not? Is coexistence possible or not? If there is fair media and fair justice, yes, it is possible. That's what I think. But if media continued like nowadays with extremist Israeli government with the provocation, no, it will never happen. I remember when I used to go to Israel to work, to move, sometimes I move with the trucks to sell the vegetables in Israel. I see Palestinians and Israelis sitting together in restaurants, nightclubs and things like this, you know. And in Gaza, when somebody make a wedding party for men, some Israelis come to participate in the party. They come from Tel Aviv to participate and they dance with them. Another example, I have seen with my own eyes, lots of Israelis used to come from Ashkelon with their vehicles, at that time Subaru, Volvo, used to come from Ashkelon to Gaza to fix their cars in Gaza workshops because it is cheaper.
It's cheaper.
I mean, living coexistence is possible if there is fair media and if there is a background for kindness, mercy, and understanding. But if there is a media focusing on vanishing and defeating others, no way. And when I say fair media, I mean talking about of Palestinians to live as humans like others. Go back to Berer. One of the points which made me upset and angry or not happy, when I used to move there, I have used to see some Jews, Israelis I mean, from Ukraine, from Russia, from London, from Poland. So I used to ask him why he's living here, why he's living this place. I should be here. Why he's driving this advanced car? Why it's not me? And even when I see a school, advanced school, I look at the kids. They are very, very, very cute kids, very nice kids. Why I'm not like them? I am as a human. Why I'm not like them? Why I'm not studying in a school like this? Why I am studying in an UNRWA school covered with metal panel like an oven in summer at that time? I mean, I make comparison between myself and how the Israelis are living.
Let me ask you then something very personal. In the 1930s, my grandfather wanted to escape from Germany, to escape from Hitler and settle in Palestine. But his idea about what would happen in Palestine was that it would be a community in which Jews and Palestinians lived not just side by side, but as friends and neighbours. Well, of course, that hasn't happened. It certainly didn't happen to my grandfather. He was killed before he could leave Europe. And of course, what has happened in Israel is that the divisions of every kind between Jews and Palestinians have become harder and sharper and more deeply divided ever since. But listening to you talk today, Sami, what I'm hearing is almost like a love story. It's like you carry with you a feeling of love for that land, the land which the Jews of Israel also love. And it's like a story of two loves for the same land. And the question then is... Yeah, exactly. And the question then is coexistence possible after all these many years of violence and injustice and hatred? Do you think that coexistence is possible?
I think it is possible. Why? Because my mother talked to me about their Jewish neighbors who used to live near Prayer. They used to work together, exchange some materials together, and when there is a Palestinian patient, he goes to a Jewish physician, something like this. She told me about that. This is number one. Number two, I remember how the Israelis used to come to Gaza, and the Gazans go to Israel, talk together, work together, play basketball together. At that time, media, which is controlled by the extremists nowadays, at that time the media was not talking about extremism, how to kick the Palestinians and things like this. I mean, the atmosphere was okay. And when Oslo Agreement signed 1993, at that time also the situation was good, despite the first intifada. I think that if you ask the Israelis at that time, could you live with the Palestinians? Could you coexist with the Palestinians? I think the majority will say yes. But now, I think the majority will say no. The mood has been changed by media, because it is controlled now by the extremists who believes that the West Bank and Gaza and the Holy Land should be just Jewish, just for Jews. I would like to live peacefully with the Israelis, side by side with them. And if I have my opportunity to go back to my home or to the home of my grandfather, to the orchards of lemon and almond and wheat, I will go back and I will live peacefully, and I will prevent any Palestinian to make anything. What is my goal is to live normal life. I am as a human. I'm looking for a human life, period. That's it. This is the main point. That the culture which is being crammed in their minds. I met lots of people, even Israelis. Israelis used to believe in that, but now they do not. The idea needs big media work to make the atmosphere is suitable coexistence. It is not fair to receive rockets and talk about coexistence. No way, it does not happen. Sometimes I talk with the Israelis while I used to work there or on Facebook. I am looking to going back to my home. And the Israeli says, no, it is Palestine is just for Jews because the Torah said so. I said, no, if you talking about a Torah, I will talk about Quran. So it is Palestinian. You say Torah and Quran. They said, no, it is older because of Abraham. I said, okay, Abraham came from Iraq. Then go back to Iraq. And they said there is Roman antiquities, historical sites. Does it mean that Rome should come back here to occupy Palestine again? They claim that Jews are before Arabs. I claim that Arabs are before because Jews belong to Judaism, to Moses. This argument, then in the end, I feel victory because I say, no, we are the Palestinian, the Natufian, 10,000 years ago. It is stupid, by the way, to talk about 10,000 years ago. I need just one step. Let me go back to my house. Period. That's it. I need to live normally. So living together, coexistence, yes. But if media is controlled by moderate people, by open-minded people, how anybody in the world will convince me to keep silent and to convince me it is not possible for the Palestinians to go back while I'm looking at people are coming from Ukraine to live in my house. I think that Sigmund Freud, the biggest one in psychology, will not be able to analyze this relation between somebody who survived from Holocaust to oppress another people. Yeah?
I'm very pleased that you mentioned Freud, because of course it was Freud who said that it really would have been better for Jews to decide that they would have a national home not in a place with so much historical baggage. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
This leads us to the demonstrations in Israel, who are calling for democracy. It needs Freud also. Because, by the way, I respect those Israelis who are making demonstrations. They think it is illegal or they think it is against democracy. It is one-eye democracy. I mean, if they would like to be democratical, they should be democratical everywhere, not only in Tel Aviv and Ramallah and Gaza, because the humanity could not be divided. And democracy is the same. They are calling for democracy and justice. I am with them. Do it with us also.
Sami, we will pause there. We will speak again in future. I'm grateful to you, and I'm very moved by what you've shared with us today.
Thank you for your project. I respect that. I think you are brave. You are a brave man. I believe that you are a brave man because you are talking about Nakba. You have the ability to talk about Nakba, which means that you are brave. All people talk about Holocaust, which also I talk about, it was horrible, and we are totally denounce it. We are totally feel sympathy with the Jews in Europe. It was horrible and inhuman. But nobody talks enough about Nakba. And when you talk about it, you are really fighter, and I support you, and I hope you will succeed. At least I hope that you will not find people who are fighting you. I hope that you will not find people who are putting obstacles in the face of your project. This project helps justice. Your project helps justice, helps humanity, and helps truth. This is the main point. Thank you very much for your work. I hope you will succeed.
Thank you very much, and shukran.
Shukran. Toda rabba.
Toda rabba.
10 days after Sami and I talked about coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians, Hamas invaded Israel and killed 1,200 people. It was the greatest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. Israel, created by the United Nations in 1948 as a sanctuary for Jews, had failed to protect its own. Israel then launched its sixth war on Gaza. As I talk today, approaching 29,000 Gazans have been killed. We are also being targeted in this global war for our support, a war being fought with words. The UK's word for Hamas is terrorist. On the 29th of January 2024, the International Court of Justice concluded that it is plausible that the word for Israel is genocidal. Early in this war, Sami Abu Salem, his mother Fatima, his wife and his 4 children were bombed out of the home that we've just seen in Jabalia near Gaza City. They sought safety first in Maghazi, in the center of the Gaza Strip, but they were soon violently displaced again, this time further south past Khan Yunis and as far as Rafah, hard by the Egyptian border. Now there is nowhere left to run. But Sami is a remarkable man. On top of his daily struggle to protect and feed his family, he continues to work as a journalist and file his reports, eyewitness to his own fate and the fate of his people. Here is what he shared with us this week as he walked the sewage-filled streets of Rafah.
Imagine, Mike, imagine that people find no room in Rafah to install their tents. They put their tents where? In Hamas military posts. But actually Hamas evacuated the post. They escaped. It is very risky. People put the tents inside the posts. Imagine, because there is no room. And because there is a toilet in the post. There is toilet, there is a pipe of water and things like this.
My brother-in-law, his name is Muhammad Muslih, escaped from Maghazi to Rafah. Then he stayed in a tent. Then he left. He took his family and they left, went back to Maghazi. But before that, he went alone to inspect his house. And he was shocked to see that his house is totally burned. Anyway, he returned to Rafah and took his family, his mother, his wife, and his daughter. She is a physician, and his son, who is an engineer, and went back to Maghazi. I told him it is very risky. He said, yes, I know, very risky, but risk is everywhere, and I'm leaving. And he left that. He said, I cannot stay in a tent like this, in cold and no toilet, no restroom. There is a problem with the girls when they would like to use the restroom, knock the door of other houses. Excuse me, hello, excuse me, can I use your restroom? Because there is no restroom in the tent. And he is asking me to come to Maghazi. I can't go and I cannot stay here. For long days I have not slept on a mattress. I'm sleeping on tires, just on a blanket. I have someone to buy mattress, but I keep them just in case for traveling, for buying food or medication or any essential thing. I am embarrassed to feel that I'm a beggar, despite I'm in need for that. There is a medical problem. I think I have flu because I slept in a tent. I'm divided between a tent and a room, by the way, me and my family. There is a problem here, and there are dermatitis, skin problems, because lack of cleaning, because lack of water. We have water here at home
3 hours a week. Every week, each 8 days, we have water for 3 hours. In the 3 hours, we rush and fill everything, you know. That's why for the 4 months, I didn't have proper hot shower. Believe it or not. I wash my body just to avoid diseases and to avoid bad smell, to keep my skin clean, but it is not easy because I fill a vessel and put it in fire, look for a wood for fire, make it warm, then I use a smaller vessel to pour on my head and my body. But real proper shower, no. It has become a dream. And also I have a problem with my mother, which you know her. She uses elderly diapers, which I cannot find it, you know. And here the prices are horrible. I cannot find it. Even the diapers for kids, it was about $8, $7, now about $40. Sometimes I find some of them which are smaller than what we need, but we use tape to fix it on the body of my mother. Lots of human details which make life here is impossible. Mission impossible. Hi, Mike. I'm near the fence between Egypt and Gaza. It's dark now. The lights of the borders are shooting along the border, which is about 14 kilometers. But we are on the western part, which is not far from the sea. Anyway, it is very cold. People are in the tents. And some of them dismantled their tents and left the area because they are scared that the Israeli forces are coming to invade Rafah. And yesterday and today, me and my wife and family and brother and others were discussing, should we leave or not? And if we would like to leave, where to go? All the Gaza Strip is under bombing. Even Rafah is under bombing. We don't know what to do, to leave or not to leave. That's the question. And even my kids are asking me, "What shall we leave Rafah? If yes, where to go?" It is strange that some people are escaping from the middle areas of the Gaza Strip and coming to Rafah because it is less danger. But people also from Rafah are leaving. They are carrying their stuff, mattresses, blankets, cooking gas, some food, some flour. I asked one of them, "Where are you going?" He said, "We are leaving Rafah because the Israelis are coming. They are going to make massacres." I asked, "Where are you going?" He said, "I don't know. I would like to leave." When he says, "I don't know," it means that he is going to stay, maybe he will sleep in the street to find any place to make his tent or to find any guy to stay in a room or no clear answer. No clear answer. So we are living in despair and in horror. Some people left Rafah and went back to their homes, and they said bombing is everywhere. The Israelis are coming to Rafah, so it is more dignity to die at our homes. You cannot blame them. I cannot blame them, and I cannot blame anybody who stays. So if somebody stays in Rafah, he is correct, and if somebody left Rafah to another place, to Nusayrat, to Deir al-Balah, to Maghazi, also he is correct, and both also are not correct. We thought if there is an invasion into Rafah, what to do if we were here? To go to the Egyptian borders? Maybe the Israelis will push people to the Egyptian borders. There is a horrible thing. Even to stay in Rafah, which means that we are guilty, we put our kids in danger. We may die or they may die. Or to leave to other place. But the other place would be bombed. Nobody knows. It is dark, by the way, but I see them with the lights of some cars who have some fuel or use cooking oil for operating their cars. I can say that they are 1.5 million of beggars. They are ordinary people. I am one of them. Ordinary people, journalists, physicians, engineers, workers, teachers, painters, artists, drivers. Ordinary people among their families. They don't know what to do. Everybody is walking and looking at the eye, looking into the eyes of the other in the street. And when somebody shake hand with the other, how are you? Are you staying in Rafah or leaving? The answer, I don't know. Like what happened with me today. Some people who I know, they are from North. Sami, are you staying in Rafah or leaving? I said, I don't know. And they don't know also. At the house of my father-in-law, it is damaged because of the last attack on Gaza refugee camp. And 2 houses of my uncles, one of them totally flattened by a bulldozer, Israeli bulldozer, and the other was targeted with artillery. My uncle and his wife were killed, instantly killed. And their daughter was critically wounded. So I cannot stay there. People here are scared to go to Egypt because if they went to Egypt, they will not have any opportunity to return to Gaza or to Palestine. Why? That's what exactly happened in 1967. When Israel occupied the Palestinian territory, the Gaza Strip, West Bank and Jerusalem. And of course, that's what happened in 1948. If they went to Egypt, they will not be allowed to come back to their homes. Okay, and Egypt do not open the borders. I see Egyptian soldiers right now who are marching near the border and checking the fence, which is about 3 or 4 walls. I'm not sure. So it is not easy to storm the borders. And there is an expectation that the Israelis will push people when they bomb Rafah here or here. So people will escape from the rockets. They may storm the borders. Maybe. I don't know. Shall we leave Rafah? I don't know. Shall we go to the sea? We will be sunk there. And also there are Israeli Marines who will shoot us. Trucks are moving, carrying people like transportation trucks and lorries, like animals. In Khan Yunis, south of Gaza, there is no water in the area, and anybody tries to move to get some water, he would be shot and killed. Even the water tanks, water barrels on the roof of the hospital were shot by the Israeli snipers, and water come out of the barrels. So people are thirsty in the area, not only in the hospital. People are thirsty. That's why they use to go to the hospital, because there is a well in the hospital and there is a source of water. But nowadays, for about 2 weeks, anybody moves, he is being shot. So every day we hear that there are shooting and killing by snipers for people who are trying to get water. And I met one family of one of the guys who was killed. He was carrying 2 gallons, empty gallons, installed them on a bicycle, and he tried to move near the hospital to fill them with water, but an Israeli sniper killed him with his friend. The Israeli sniper killed 2. His name is Ahmed Abu Mustafa, and I talked to his brother Muhammad, and I talked to his son who was an eyewitness. That's why people are thirsty inside the hospital. When I say people, I mean medical staff, patients, wounded, and displaced people, about 10,000 people inside and in the campus of the hospital. So the crimes are running and running like what happened in 1948.
The Israelis stormed the Al-Amal hospital, which belongs to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. They are clever. When they storm it, after lots of killing, slaughtering people and displaced and medical stuff, etc. When they storm, they bring with them some oxygen canister to help people. Oh my God, to help. And they film themselves. And they also bring some medical stuff to show themselves that they are very, very kind. My sister has just left from Khan Yunis. She was hiding in a hospital. Then she came and she told me, Sami, I moved in the streets of Khan Yunis city. It is totally destroyed. The downtown and the streets she walked through. She said there are nothing, no buildings and no streets. She means the places she moved through. They are coming to destroy the city itself, to destroy houses, destroy universities, destroy ministries, destroy everything, even the streets. They bulldozer the streets and destroy sewage network and everything. So when they say that we are coming to Rafah, it means that we are coming to destroy the city, like what happened in Gaza and north of Gaza. I met some prisoners who were detained by the Israelis and released. They told me how the Israeli soldiers tortured them, forced them to be naked, totally naked, beaten, hanging, and forcing them to sit on mud for hours and hours, and horrible humiliation. Doctors, engineers, ordinary people, all of them, and women. And I have heard that there are some rape. I know they raped and harassment, but I cannot publish it because I have no evidences and no woman told me that she has been raped. Our culture as Middle East, women cannot say that she has been raped. No way.
Where are you from?
I'm from Gaza.
So you are displaced?
Yeah, I evacuated from north of Gaza.
How many days?
For 4 months. It's been a 4 month here in the Rafah. I'm evacuated from the north of Gaza to here in Rafah. There's nothing here in Rafah. There's no water. There's no enough water. There's no food. I want to back. I want to go back to my normal life, to my school. I want to live my dream. There's a dream. There's home. There's life.
What is your dream?
My dream is to continue my school and go aboard to college and learn business, learn marketing, and come back here in Gaza and make my own business and continue here my life in Gaza.
What about your family right now? Where is your family?
My family is here with me in Gaza, in Rafah. We struggled. I'm like I have 5 sisters. 2 of them are doctors. She's a medical student. She wants to continue her college. She wants to become a doctor. There's no university here. There's no college here. She wants to become a doctor. And my another sister, she's 13 years old. She wants to continue her school, to continue her life, to go to college like a normal life, like a normal person, like normal children. We want to continue our lives.
If they are fighting Hamas, why they are blowing up universities and schools, NGOs, and housing blocks, housing quarters and towers? Why they bombard the houses which already evacuated or inhabited houses? Hamas is not there. Israel says that Hamas is under the ground in tunnels. Okay, while they are bombing, while they are blowing up universities. Imagine that the war has ended. So we will go back to our homes, no homes, and we will go, our children is going back to their schools. There are no schools. Nothing. Even people who are staying now in schools and shelters will not find a place to stay. I mean, they lost their houses. That's why they will stay in the schools, which means that education is finished. This war is not against Hamas. It is not against Hamas. It is against Palestinian humanity. They don't need us. They are, my personal point of view, they are trying to force us to leave Palestine to make demographic balance. That's what my personal point of view.
Is Sami right? Israel has always desired maximum territory with minimum Palestinians, to enjoy the dowry of land, but to deny the bride, the Palestinians. Two Israeli prime ministers used just these emotive words in 1967. Levi Eshkol said to Golda Meir, "You want the dowry, but you don't like the bride." Golda Meir replied, "My soul yearns for the dowry, and to let someone else take the bride." Sami and I talked of coexistence in Israel and Palestine, but now the question for Sami and the millions now dislocated, trapped and terrified in Gaza is not coexistence, but existence. If this is not Israel's new ethnic cleansing of Palestine, then what is it?
Wie ist euer Verhältnis zu den Arabern? Trachtet mit den Arabern in Frieden und Freundschaft auszukommen. Es ist bestimmt eine sehr wichtige Sache.
How are relations with the Arabs? Strive to live in peace and friendship with the Arabs. It is sure to be a very important matter.